I like to record it, then people can look at it again if they have to. So it's not really a made for television kind of thing. It's not all the way polished, but hopefully everyone can get the idea from what we talk about here. It says Kemmer Company purchased a building and land with a fair market value of $600,000, and then it breaks it down in parentheses. The building was $425,000, the land was $175,000. I guess that's the cost, right? And no, that's correct. That's $600,000. Okay. On January 1, 2014, Kemmer signed a 30-year, 13% mortgage payable. Kemmer will make monthly payments of $6,637.20. So we're going to journalize the note issuance on January 1, 2014. So it sounds like he's getting this building and land and doing a mortgage on it. To me, that's what it sounds like. We'll test this out. Okay, so $600,000 mortgage, and then he gets a building for $425,000 and land for $175,000. Okay, so instead of paying cash, they did a loan. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So. Okay, so what's happening is, normally, like if you bought it for cash, I don't want to say normally because this is probably more normal than just buying it for cash, but if you paid cash for it, this credit would have been to cash. Okay, and now the company has acquired a building and a piece of land, but instead of paying cash, because they may not have had the means to do it, or they may not have wanted to use up their cash, they did financing. So they have an obligation here. They call it a mortgage payable. So they owe $600,000. So what happens is when this loan starts out, and this is kind of like that amortization table I did the other day, except their columns are not in the same place that my columns were, but we still can work with this. Okay, this mortgage starts out at $600,000. Okay, then when you make the first payment, right, and they tell us the payment, so we don't have to compute the payment. The payment is $6,637.20. Okay, when you make that first payment, you will be making that payment, right? And that payment will be broken up into two things. It'll be broken up into an interest portion and a principal portion. Okay. Now we compute that interest on the beginning balance, right? So they're being a little redundant, but that's fine. They're taking the ending balance and bringing it down to the next row as the beginning balance. Okay, so January's beginning balance was $600,000, and then what we do first is we compute the interest. So let's get our calculator out, and it says it's a 13% mortgage payable. That 13% is an annual percentage rate. So what we have to do is we have to take 13%, 0.13, and divide that by 12, and we'll get a number. And then with that number, we're going to multiply it by the beginning balance, the beginning principal balance of 600,000. So times 600,000. Okay. And that came out really clean. 6500. I want to do that again just to be sure. So we're going to take 13% divided by 12 months, and then multiply that by 600,000. Okay, so what this says is, of the total payment, which is $6,637.20, $6,500 will go to interest. That's the amount that we pay to borrow the money. It's not the money that we borrowed, it's the charge on the money that we borrowed. So the rest of it will go to principal. So if I take the difference, 6,637 and 20 cents, and I subtract 6,500, I'm left over with the principal portion of the payment, 137 and 20 cents. I'll put the 0 there. Question?
Can you do that again?
Okay. Okay. So we all agree that the total payment is 6,637, right? It's given. Okay. So that's always, in fact, that's going to stay the same for 30 years. Yes, I subtracted the interest, but what I have to do first is I have to compute the interest. Okay. And the way I compute the interest is I compute this interest piece is computed as the interest rate, 13%, times the beginning balance, but it's monthly, so we have to divide by 12, right? If we were doing it annually, then that would be fine. We could just say 13% times the beginning balance, but it's monthly, so we got to get 1/12 of that. Does that make sense? Okay. Now what do we do next? Well, we have to lower the principal balance, right? We have to take this, you see the 600,000? We got to reduce it by the amount of the principal payment. Okay, so I'm going to take 600,000 and I'm going to subtract 137,020 cents. So now I got an ending balance of 599,862 and 80 cents. So it's really just the 600,000 minus the principal piece of the payment. Right? Not the interest piece, because the interest piece is what you're paying to use the money. You're never going to get that back. The interest is an expense. It's not a repayment of the loan. The principal piece is repaying the loan. That's the amount that pays back the loan, the principal piece. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do another roll. Okay, so ending balance from January is the beginning balance in February. So all we have to do is carry it down. Okay? Notice that the payment stays the same. That payment is locked in for 30 years. That payment's not going to change. So the next step is first compute the interest. So now the interest is going to be computed on the beginning balance. It's not going to be computed on 600,000 because you no longer owe 600,000. You only owe 599,862 and 20 cents. It's different. Maybe different by a little bit, but it is different. So I'm going to take that 599,862. I'll go do it a different way, but it's still multiplying and dividing, right? Multiply it by 13%. And then divide that by 12. Okay. So I get, I'm sorry, did we mess the first one up? We might have messed the first one up, right? Let's see. Let's see. I think we got to go back and recompute the first one. But it's the same logic, okay? So let's go back and do it. We'll just take this. No, we're correct. We're correct. I'm sorry. Okay. So I'll take 13% divided by 12 and then multiply that by the new principal balance of 599,862 and 80 cents, not 20 cents. So now we're only going to 2 decimal places, so I get 6,498 and 51 cents. Okay, I rounded it to 2 decimal places, and if I subtract that from 6,637 and 20 cents, that will give me the amount of the principal payment. Notice the principal portion of the payment is increasing. That's because the total payment doesn't change, right? But the interest piece of the payment goes down. Why? Why does the interest piece of the payment keep going down?
Because the interest is off of, it's a percentage of your total. So that's why it gets smaller because your total is getting smaller.
Okay. Chanel knows what she's saying, and she's right. Let me kind of rephrase, right? The principal balance is decreasing, right? And we're computing interest based on the principal balance, right? So as this ending balance decreases, right, even though we're still using 13%, it's 13% applied against a smaller and smaller balance. But at the same time, our total payment is locked in. It stays the same. So what's left over from the interest goes to principal. And if the interest piece continues to decrease, then the principal piece is going to increase. Okay? So that's why when you make a loan, you're in the beginning you're paying more interest in relation to principal, and then it switches at some point. Let's see if our math was good enough. Ah,
I'm so
yeah.
proud of you.
You know, it's easy to mess up because of the rounding. Yeah. So you got to be careful with the rounding. And so the first payment would look like this, right? You would debit mortgage payable. Well, you might do it in this order. Debit interest expense, debit mortgage payable, and credit cash. Okay? And if we use the January 31st, the numbers from January 31st, then interest expense would be $6,500. Mortgage payable would be $137.20 because we're paying down the mortgage, right? And then we would credit cash for the total payment amount. That might make it easier to see how that's split because the journal entry shows you, yes, we're paying the full $6,637.20, but it's being split between two things. It's being split between, and right, split between interest and paying down the debt. And then they want you to do the second payment, just so they make sure you're not just using the same numbers. So it's going to be the same structure, but take the numbers from February 28th. Okay. Same total payment though. Make sure you pull your numbers over correctly. So let me put it back over there so you can see. Any questions on that?